Welcome to MidLIFE Matters, where we celebrate women's wisdom and wit. I'm Georgian Lussier, your host, and I'm delighted to introduce today's guest, Susan Cartier Liebel, who is an attorney that helps others establish solo practices. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you.
Wonderful to have you on.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here, too.
And you've had several careers before you got your law degree.
I had a few, yes.
And currently you offer these services for lawyers and law students.
Well, what I did is I established an online university called Solo Practice University. And Solo Practice University is the only online educational and professional networking community for lawyers and law students who want to actually go out and create and build a solo or small firm practice. It's a wonderful environment. It's something I'm very excited about because it's something that I wished was available when I went to law school. I said, it wasn't available, I'm going to make it happen myself.
I'm going to create it.
There you go.
And what are some common benefits in terms of going solo?
I have found, and it's ironic that you mention this because it's something that I've been contemplating a lot these past couple of weeks. Most things that we do are based on empowerment. We want to empower ourselves. So whether we're attracted to a service or a product or something of that nature, we're willing to invest if it gives us the feeling that we're empowering ourselves. What I find is very common amongst lawyers who want to go out on their own. There's a lot of hesitancy, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of professional angst that they feel because their colleagues aren't necessarily supportive, but they want to do it because they want to be in charge of themselves. They want to feel empowered. They want to live and die by their own sword and make it work for themselves and be in charge of themselves. And I think that's a huge universal theme that I'm seeing more and more and more, not just in the legal field, but everywhere.
And how long have you had Solo Practice University?
We're celebrating 8 years.
Wonderful.
I can't believe it myself because given my past, this is probably the longest job I've held. So to be able to say that I've created this out of thin air and I've been owning it, operating it, and growing with it for 8 years is quite an accomplishment, especially on the internet. It's like dog years.
Right, right, in terms of the rate of change.
Yes.
I remember you telling me that you worked at Quinnipiac University.
When I first came out of law school, I and 2 others went into our own practice. And I realized there was nothing there for me to help me to cross that bridge into being a business owner and being an entrepreneur. So I thought, what if I took the opportunity to teach people what I did? So I was able to get employment as an adjunct at Quinnipiac University, which is my alma mater, teaching how to hang a shingle right out of law school. And I taught it for several years. During the course of that teaching gig, I was given an award for education through the Connecticut Law Tribune for bringing this course to life. And subsequent to that, I started consulting people because they kept saying, I wish we had this class, when I went to law school. So there's this whole audience outside of law school who had graduated that still wanted the opportunity to learn how to do it, and the law schools weren't offering it. They have a different agenda. It's starting to change a little bit now, but back then there was a different agenda. There was not any education about going out and being your own boss. It was very frustrating for a lot of people, so I started to consult. Through that process of consulting and teaching people what to do, I thought to myself, I have certain limitations in what I can educate people to do. Imagine if I could get together a group of people who do it in their own disciplines, whether it was bankruptcy, immigration, whether it was other aspects of the 360-degree experience of opening a business, getting in business people to teach about social media and marketing and you name it, how to have a trust account, how to do any of those things. And that was the genesis of Solo Practice University. That's how it all began.
Of the people who express an interest, you get an inquiry, what percentage tend to be still in school versus maybe having a couple of years' experience?
I think the majority are just out and maybe 8 to 10 years out, but we still have people that are 20 years out who are leaving big law or they need to change a practice area and they need to get a quick education on how to do it. So they come to Solo Practice University. So I'd say it's a third, a third, and a third. Part of the reason that we don't have as many law students that are currently in law school is because law schools themselves are still not with the program. They still don't understand they need to be educating while in school that going out on their own is a viable option, that they have a responsibility to educate to that part of your law license which allows you to do that. They teach you to be employees.
And I think most disciplines take that approach. I'm not sure most colleges, whatever field they're training people for, are really thinking one of their responsibilities is to help people be on their own. I mean, that might be a misconception on my part.
It's not a misconception. It has evolved a little bit, especially in technology. And you go to Stanford and some of the larger, schools in Silicon Valley that are encouraging entrepreneurs. They have what's called Y Combinators, where they invite young people in to take an idea and help bring it to fruition so that they are, creating their own startup. It is changing, because here's an interesting statistic for you. It's across the board, not just lawyers. It was put out by the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, and it was reported by Bloomberg a couple of years ago, that said by 2019, which is just 2 years from now, 40% of all Americans will be self-employed. 40% of all working Americans will be self-employed. So that's almost half your population of working Americans. How do you not educate to that? They're not necessarily doing it, but they need to do it. I think I was just a couple of years ahead of the curve, and in the legal space doing it.
I could see where some trends are supporting that in terms of any discipline someone might be in that people can often get the same health care benefits buying in themselves as they would as an employee. I mean, that used to be a huge barrier, that you needed to have a job because you needed to get the benefit of
Health care.
Yes,
But now with the
healthcare.
Affordable Care Act, it allows people to buy in at an affordable price. It's all relative,
Right.
what people might say is affordable or not, but it took that barrier away, and that was huge, a huge barrier.
I would think so. Now, what particular challenges are there for attorneys versus people doing other work? Myself, I'm an HR independent person, that they need to be particularly attuned to.
One of the biggest issues is we're bound by the rules of professional conduct, confidentiality, a whole host of issues and responsibilities that tend to make people feel more leery about exploring social media, about exploring the internet, about exploring online vendors that could make their life easier. They need to understand how these opportunities are there for them, and they can do it with the rules. The rules, the people that govern or create the rules, are slow to change, but they're being forced to. That's happening now. Once that happens, and we also have to deal with cybersecurity because of our obligations to confidentiality, that's being addressed. So it's happening. There's so much has changed due to technology. It's making it so much easier. It's leveling the playing field that it's a wonderful time to make that jump and try to go out on your own.
Physicians, I know, seem to have taken a different trend in terms of getting out of practice, partially because of what they claim often are exorbitant insurance costs, malpractice, et cetera. What's happened in society has really influenced that. How is the insurance issue for attorneys compared to, say, other industries or physicians?
I don't know that I can compare it to physicians. I know
Okay.
physicians have a huge burden, a huge responsibility. But for attorneys, it's commensurate with years of experience. It's based on practice area. Some areas are more prone, have higher risk, greater opportunity for malpractice. So everything is commensurate with the associated risk. I've never heard anybody say they're closing their practice because they can't afford the malpractice insurance.
That's good to know. And technology-wise, now there's these different firms that offer kind of lawyer in a box, sign up for a certain membership and you can get access to an attorney to do your will, or, it's, I don't even know if they're run by attorneys, but they're basically offering services that previously people would have gone to an independent for.
There are companies, large corporations, that are offering forms and a variety of services, trying to get lawyers to sign up with them so that they can use those lawyers at a discounted rate to provide those services. There are issues with that because in law, good enough is not good enough. So you can not know what you don't know and think that you're getting proper services, but because you don't know what you don't know, and you might just be getting good enough or maybe not good enough at all, but you don't know it, you could hurt yourself. I would be careful with some of these companies that offer services who say everything's good, because you will find quite often it's not.
Okay.
I wouldn't be rushing to go to these big box services. There's a difference between that and, say, a referral service, which is available to, say, the fire departments, or companies will buy legal service programs for their employees, and they contribute a monthly fee, and they get access to attorneys for, a certain dollar amount, or
Right.
they get a reduction on wills or a reduction on a divorce. But that's still through credible legal firms.
Okay.
There is a difference. So that's what I think that might be one of the other things you were referring to.
Right. What are some of the courses that you offer?
We offer the 360-degree experience of practicing as a lawyer, which means that you are in the business selling legal services. So you are learning about not just practicing law, which most people just want to do. I just want to practice law. You're forced to wear many hats, so you better be very good at it. You have to understand money. You have to understand marketing. You have to understand the technologies that are out there. You have to understand the finances. You have to understand the full experience of running a business and your obligations to running that business. So you are wearing multiple hats. We present that at Solo Practice University. We give you the 360-degree experience, education-wise, of what you need to know to start your own practice. And because we're not brick and mortar, we're constantly bringing in new faculty for more nuanced areas that you might not expect you need to know about.
Okay. And technology in general, do you find, I would think as new lawyers are coming through, but say compared to the 20-year person, that familiarity with technology is an issue?
It is an issue. It is an issue because there's I don't want to generalize, but only a small percentage of people who've been out a long time are early adopters
Right.
and embracing that technology because, one, they see it's a competitive advantage for them to do that, and if they want to work another 20 years, they better get with the program. Also, there are new rules that say if you don't have a certain amount of competency relating to something called e-discovery, I don't want to get too technical, but if you don't have certain competencies in certain areas, then you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is due diligence in representing your client. And technology is putting that kind of pressure on lawyers where it's not something, well, I think I'll adopt it, I think I won't. There's an obligation to adopt it.
Oh, interesting.
Because if you don't, you're not able to serve your clients the way you are obligated to serve them. So it used to be something that was just out there. Now it's a requirement. It's a necessity. And over 20 jurisdictions have required this competency already, passed rules requiring that competency. So you don't have that luxury. You will find some lawyers will just say, I'm done, I'm past this. But the majority can't afford to do that. They have to do it if they want to stay in the game.
And what would you say are some common characteristics of people who are successful entrepreneurs?
Success is such a...
All right, who achieve some of the goals they set out for themselves and don't run into too many unexpected
I don't know
barriers?
that. I don't know that that's the right way to phrase it. I mean, when I talk about people who've gone out on their own, each person defines success differently, and this whole conversation could be about whatever. It could be
Right.
about what you're doing. It could be about the doctor. It could be about the person who opens up an art gallery. Success is defined by your own personal goals. If a lawyer says, my personal goal is to be a multimillionaire and have 3 homes across 3 continents, and that's that person's definition of success, that's the goal they're going to shoot for. But what about the lawyer, man or woman, who says, I want to have a part-time practice, I want to have X amount of dollars, my goal is to surround my practice with the important things in my life, which is my family, because I want to be there for them. Can we measure who's more successful? No, because it's based on what their definition of success is. And that's what solo practice affords. If you go out on your own and utilize your law license based upon your definition of success, then if you meet those goals, you'll be successful. What personality accomplishes that? Is that more in line with who's that person that accomplishes that? That's a huge, that's also a huge question. I think it's the person who understands goals, understands they have to set goals, understands who they are. We do something at Solo Practice University called a set point. Where are you situationally? Where are you emotionally? Where are you technologically? Situational is, where are you sitting today? Are you married? Do you have kids? Are you, eating ramen noodles? Are you comfortably secure living off of a pension from a previous job? anything in between. Where are you situationally? Do you have the support of a spouse? Are you a single mom? Whatever it is, whatever your situation is, what is that today? The next thing is, emotionally, where are you? Are you up for this? Are you up for what you need to do? Do you have the support of people? Are people saying you're crazy? You need to know where you are emotionally with this. Are you doing it out of fear? Are you doing it because there's nothing more in your life than you want to do and you're revved up for it? Where are you emotionally? And then where are you technologically? Because in order to make this happen, you have to know what you know or don't know. And none of the things described here are meant to tell you don't do it. Mm-hmm. They're meant to show you where your strengths are and where your challenges are, and then capitalize on your strengths and shore up your challenges. If you have a weakness in accounting, it doesn't mean you can't do it. It means you know you've got to allocate funds to bring someone in who can help you do it. If you are a whiz-banger and just your own pleasure is building websites, great, no cost there. But if you know that's not your thing, you never want to go near it, but you understand you have to have it, then you allocate funds or find things that will accomplish that goal for you. So I like to use the analogy of you want to take a 2-week trip to Italy. There are 3 ways to go. There's that personality that says, got my passport, got my backpack, and 2 pair of underwear, I'm good to go. And there's no plan. They get on a plane, they're there, they have the time of their life. The next person is someone who says, you know what, I want a travel agent who's at least going to set me up, tell me the highlights, where I need to go, have a game plan for it, let them do it, and then I can take it from there, I'm good. Then you've got the third person who says, just call them the travel agent. They're going to pick me up at the house, going to shuffle me all over where I need to go, have all my meals planned, let them handle it, and then I'm going to get off the plane here, and my chauffeur's going to pick me up and take me home. All 3 people are going to Italy. All 3 people are doing it on their own terms. All 3 people are doing it based upon their desire, their finances, and what's going to make them happy. But all 3 are going to Italy. It's a question of where do you fit into that.
Nice. Great. Memorable analogy. Now let's talk about yourself a little bit. What did you do prior to becoming an attorney? I mean, I know you've had a number of different roles and responsibilities.
Well, when I went to college, I knew I wanted to be in advertising. So I went to Syracuse University, Newhouse School of Public Communications. I came out and I worked in New York in the ad business. It was very interesting, though, because I only stayed there a year. I left because my first lesson was I was taking the train into New York and I was earning a certain dollar amount, but the expense to get to that job, it was cheaper for me and more profitable for me to work locally because at the end of the day, it wasn't what my gross income was, it was my net income. So that was lesson number 1. I continued to do that and evolved into sales. I loved advocacy. And I didn't realize it at the time. You only have that in the rearview mirror, right? It was this advocacy. It was pushing an issue. It was promotion. It was, making your point. Continued with that, and it evolved into a whole different series of sales jobs, commission jobs, and I found the ones where I was the happiest was when I earned commensurate with the effort I put in. I'm not the kind of person where 5 people can sit in a room, all have the same job. One does a ton of work and the other just sit around and take breaks, and they all get paid the same. I find that very debilitating emotionally, and it doesn't work for me. So I found I liked working in sales. I liked working on a commission basis because the sky was the limit. So it was a lesson I learned along the way. Then, as it kept evolving, I was, I have these advocacy skills. I'm happy working for myself and earning money based on the effort I put in. What's the greatest advocacy job there is in the world? That's being a lawyer. And I remember I applied to law school, put it off after I got in, but then a couple of years later I was like, the LSATs are expiring. I know I'm not going to take them again. Should I apply to law school again? So I did. I remember I got this what looked like a junk piece of mail, and I was about to throw it in the bin. I said, let me open it up. And I opened it up. It was my acceptance to law school. And here was the funny part. The funny part was just that week I was offered a new job, which paid an extraordinary sum of money in sales, headhunting basically, but with the government. And I was like, okay, $80,000 a year with the government or poverty and go to law school. Let's go to law school. And I never went with this idea originally that I was going to practice. I wanted it for the education. I really love education. It surprised me that on the first day I met 2 people and I said, we should do this. We should go out on our own and do it. And that's how the journey began through law school.
Who influenced you the most, do you think, in terms of helping you create this sense of confidence in yourself and...
Oh, without a doubt, my mom.
Okay, so let's hear a little bit about your mom.
Wonderful story. It's a story that stayed with me all my life. I used it in my college essay, entrance essay. When I was in 4th grade, there was a play, Gilbert and Sullivan's HMS Pinafore, and I wanted to be the monarch of the seas in the worst way. However, the teacher said, you can't try out, you're not a boy. And that's when I got my first lesson in habitual sexism. It just was like, mindless habitual sexism. I came home, I was crushed. I was crying. My mother goes, what's the matter? I said, I wanted to be the monarch of the seas. She won't even let me try out. That's my part I want to be. She goes, okay. She goes, well, that's not going to fly. She said, here's what you're going to do. She said, tell me how the boys are trying out. Oh, she lets them, stare at the wall. They don't even have to face the audience. They don't have to memorize the songs. And she goes, well, then you memorize the songs. You go back there and you sing to the audience with a memorized song. And you tell her you want to try out, and she must let you try out. I did.
4th grade.
4th grade. I did. And I got the part. And I never forgot it. I learned that if there's something you want to do and you hit the wall, you figure out how to get around that wall. Figure out how to get around that wall. Mm-hmm. And I've always been a problem solver. I immediately go into resolution mode if there's an issue. I don't stop. I just immediately go into resolution mode. And that's been with me ever since. And the other lesson she taught me, which was fabulous, is never say you can't. She said, tell me you don't want to. Tell me you don't know how, and I'll show you how, but don't tell me you can't. I never forgot that lesson either. So absolutely, so here I am, someone who is a problem solver, who doesn't accept that it can't be done unless I don't want to do it. I have to ask myself, do I really not want to do it, or do I not know how to do it, so let me figure it out. Those are my mantras in life.
And how does having this business, because you're an attorney helping other attorneys, and you're doing the same thing, you're in your own business, how does it fit with your life overall?
It's very comfortable because it allows me to be totally in charge of my day, my week, my year. I get to make my own choices based upon my business, based upon what I want to do. I don't have to answer to anybody. And because I'm a problem solver, and because I don't accept can't, it's pretty easy in that regard. Are there days where you're going nuts? But again, it's just a problem to be solved and to make it work.
What things do you think might the future hold for you?
I don't know. I know that I've got the itch to travel again. I love to travel. I want to learn more. I want to keep growing and learning, and a little restless. A little restless, like, I need to go do something.
Well, it's been 8 years that you've been doing this.
There you
and
go.
do you do it all on your own?
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure you have different people that you
take that
provide
back.
services or...
I couldn't do it without the faculty, clearly. And I have someone that runs the technical side of the site.
Okay.
And that person's been with me for 8 years.
Wonderful. So that's really worked out.
And it's all about the networking and the connections and everything else, because you can't function in a vacuum. Your connections are very, very important.
Well, that will be interesting to see for all that are in your life what the future might hold in terms of...
I don't know, but that's what makes it exciting.
Some spirit that...
I'll be doing this for a long time, but there's just something in the back of my mind that's already formulating, like, what about, what if?
Percolating.
Yeah, percolating. There you go.
What advice would you give to your younger self? Think of, say, at 25 and more midlife.
The advice that I would give to my younger self is to not worry. That without, getting spiritual here, whether you realize it or not, the choices you make are the choices you actually want to make. You may not be conscious of why you're making those choices, but you're making those choices on that journey to understanding yourself. So don't be so hard on yourself when you make those choices. Don't be afraid that if you step in one direction and you have to step back, that somehow it's a failure. Don't be afraid to pivot. Learn the skills so that when opportunities present themselves, you have a chance to pivot. Learn skills so that if something doesn't work out as you wanted it to, you can pivot. Always be open to pivoting and welcome the opportunities that present themselves. That's what I would be saying. And I would also say, you may not understand it now, but it has a role. When you look back, you'll understand it. Because when I look back, I see a gold thread that connects everything that I've ever done. That when I finally opened up Solo Practice University, I could see how everything played a role. Everything. Because it came together. Every skill, every experience taught me something that allowed me to create it. It all came together. The sun, the moon, and the stars lined up. And that was a big lesson.
And do you think your midlife self versus just getting started self had a different perspective, or has it been kind of a building?
It's my personality. You know, I'm the one who's always going to open the doors. That's just who I am. I'm not afraid to open the doors, except for at my Nana's house, because on the 3rd floor she had an old hunting lodge, and there were a lot of dead flies, and we thought that there were like boogeymen up there. Okay, except for her house. But I like to open the doors. I like to see what's behind them. I'm cautious. I take the right, precautions. I'm not an unsafe person. But I need to experience it. I need to experience what's out there. They say life begins once you stick your neck out past your comfort zone. I firmly believe that.
Well, and I asked you about a favorite quote, and you said it was from Goethe, who said, "At the moment of commitment, the entire universe conspires to assure your success."
Correct.
Which is, you have to open the door, right?
You have to open the door, and you have to make the commitment. You have to make the commitment to succeed. And you have to say, okay, I'm ready to roll with this. Yes, I do believe that firmly. I do.
Well, thank you, Susan. I wish you every success in the future. I have no doubt you will open new doors.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed this opportunity to share.
And please tune in to hear other fascinating women on future segments of Midlife Matters. I'm Georgian Lussier, your host. Thanks for watching.